War. It came again to Europe in 1939. It moved on to a new climax at Pearl Harbor in 1941. Within a few hours of the event, Canada was at war with Japan, and as in other nations of the Pacific, fear of attack became suddenly real. With war in the Pacific now a reality, it came to acute nationwide attention that Canada had 23,000 residents of Japanese racial descent. It was well known that a large group of these people was engaged in the fishing industry on the west coast. But the outbreak of war brought to new prominence the fact that practically all of the 23,000 lived, worked, and had their small businesses inside the western number 1 defense zone. They were permanently settled and had their homes in this area. Some had adopted Canadian ways and lived a healthy life in good surroundings. Others lived crowded into houses and apartments where health conditions were below the standard. A very large proportion lived in buildings entirely unsuitable for human use. All too frequently, this was the case in the small fishing villages. Sewage disposal was elementary in the extreme, and the unsanitary conditions resulting were the cause of much poor health. In 1942, it was decided that all people of Japanese racial origin should be removed from the coastal defense zone to new locations in the interior of British Columbia and other parts of the Dominion. The British Columbia Security Commission was set up to do the job under the Dominion Department of Labor. The problem facing the Commission was difficult. Places had to be found, such as Nakusp, in which there was no pronounced opposition to an influx of Japanese. Kaslo was another. These towns, being semi-abandoned, had buildings and homes suitable for almost immediate occupation. High in a mountain valley, the town of Sandon was used. In the Slocan Valley at Slocan City, old buildings were used. New houses were built nearby at Bay Farm, Popoff, and Lemon Creek. Farther up the lake at New Denver, available buildings were made use of and new ones built. Closer to the coast, a large ranch was used as a site on which to build the town of Tashme. In the fall of 1942, the last group of Japanese left the west coast, and the movement to these new locations was completed. The winter proved exceptionally severe, and it was necessary to organize all available help and equipment to turn out fuel wood for the new homes. At this same time, a shortage of fuel of all kinds developed in the country at large. The fuel wood cutting operations were expanded with more men and more equipment to take care of the emergency. As a result of the special effort put forth, it was possible to deliver to the city of Vancouver alone 30,000 cords of fuel wood. A slasher mill was installed to speed up the production of fuel wood. The fuel was shipped by rail to points where it was needed most. Small mills were installed to cut lumber for the new houses and the many buildings in the various projects. As the lumber needs of the housing projects grew smaller, it was possible to supply specialized requirements. Veneer woodlogs and telegraph poles were cut and shipped out. With the country at war, the demand for wood products in industry and the armed services grew beyond all peacetime levels. Thus, the small lumber operations near the various centers were expanded into a full-scale business, the lumber produced helping to supply the country's wartime needs. Employment for a large number of Japanese is provided by this business. Smaller groups work in a variety of other lines. Highway building and general road work keep another large group occupied. It should be made clear that Japanese residents in these towns are not living in internment camps. Travel between towns in the same group is not restricted. These relocated people should not be confused with those who were dangerous or had subversive tendencies and who were arrested and interned by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the outbreak of the war with Japan. For Japanese, travel to points outside of the general relocation district is by permit. There are roadblocks on all highways leading away from the areas. At these points, permits held by Japanese are checked and all traffic is inspected. Guards with bayonets and barbed wire fences have not been necessary. This is Roseberry, one of the villages specially built to house the Japanese, very similar in layout and construction to the other housing projects. Like the others, it has fresh water brought to standpipes in front of the houses. Here, as elsewhere, fuel wood is supplied for cooking and to be stored for winter heating. Individual initiative and self-help, such as these men show in repairing a roof, and this householder in beautifying his home with a lawn and flower garden, have made living more convenient and pleasing for the majority. Many supplement the family diet with vegetables grown in the backyard garden. Roseberry is more fortunate than some other places in having electric light in most of the houses. The powerhouse equipment was available from a disused mine nearby. Local men look after the service, and with help from the commission, they built and installed the plant. There is first aid or medical service within a few minutes' call in all the settlements. The Nelson Ranch, like Roseberry, is very close to the center of New Denver. There is an apartment building for single men here and several houses. The space available for gardens is greater than in other places. Also close to the stores and businesses of New Denver is the Harris Ranch settlement. This is one of the most beautifully situated and also one of the healthiest spots. It is built on a sunny bluff high above the Slocan Lake. With shake split from cedar, many of the houses are made warmer and more attractive. The former main house of the ranch has been converted into a home for the very old single men. Within the confines of New Denver, a few blocks from the business section, a large settlement has been built on the site of an old orchard and takes its name from it. Life in the orchard is much the same as in the other spots. Each small community has a committee to look after many of the details of living. The Orchard Committee goes into session in its meeting place in the same building as the post office. This man is using a Japanese-style plane as he builds a boat for use in the lake nearby. Home improvement work goes on constantly. A pumping station was necessary for fresh water, so effort was expended to make it decorative. Life isn't all work in the orchard. This is a tense moment in a game of Japanese chess. As the village was built right on the shores of the Slocan Lake, a fine beach is available for swimming and sunning, with beneficial effects to health. Relocation has resulted in an improvement in the general health level. Before the evacuation from the coast, tuberculosis was known to exist among the Japanese, and medical measures against it were carried on. However, the true extent of the widespread ravages of the disease went unreported to the proper authorities until the relocation. Then, so many cases were detected, it was necessary to build this sanitarium to fight tuberculosis alone. In addition, regular hospitals were built or expanded. Thus, quite a large number of the brightest young men and young women will have a chance for life which they would not otherwise have had. These two young ladies are rehearsing the dance for the Oban Festival. The Oban Festival, or Bonodori, Festival for the Return of the Spirits, came to Canada from the rural parts of Japan. Originally a Buddhist celebration, it is now observed in this country by Buddhists and Christians alike as a remembrance day for departed members of the family. After a quiet time together, with perhaps a visit to the cemetery, the families assemble at sundown for the dancing. It starts rather formally, but as the darkness falls, the mood changes to mild merrymaking. In a mountain valley just outside of the defense zone is Tashme, the largest of the relocation towns. Being remote from other centers, it must have within its own boundaries all the services necessary for life. Other towns use established private businesses such as stores, but since Tashme has been built so recently, the commission must run everything. Houses here are similar to those in other towns, with improvements by the occupants, such as flower gardens, making things more attractive. As Tashme was built on the site of a large ranch, some of the buildings have been converted into apartments. Cooking is done in a communal kitchen. Nearly all of the employees in the various offices and stores are townspeople. The grocery and general store is large and well stocked to look after the needs of more than 2,000 people. In this building is the butcher shop. The store proper is large and carries a wide selection at standard prices. The rest of the building houses a big cold storage section. These are the bakers who supply the town with bread and bakery products. Tashme has its own hospital with qualified and adequate staff, including a dentist. Church services are held in 2 languages. There is a barber shop and also a shoe repairing establishment. Japanese-style bathhouses are the rule, with plenty of fuel piled up to keep them going. This is the fire hall, with an alarm bell to call volunteers to help the full-time firemen. The regular crew practices frequently. Improvements are constantly in progress. Here, a septic tank is being constructed. Across the farmlands from the town is the sawmill. All lumber from this mill is shipped away. Farming is another industry in Tashme, with quite a few of the products finding their way to the general store and the butcher shop. Soybean sauce manufacture is a new enterprise, with the product shipped all over Canada. Home illumination is by oil lamp, but the electric power plant is able to supply the central buildings, apartments, and also the welder who repairs machinery. Tashme has a wolf cub pack and a Boy Scout troop. The year-round sports program is full, with baseball the summer favorite, as the turnout for this final game shows. The three-bagger broke up the game and left the team managers still on speaking terms. Education in the centers is carried on very much as it is in the rest of Canada. Here, children leave the Tashme kindergarten at the end of the day. Pupils of the primary grades have their own school. With commission help and volunteer labor, one of 2 woodsheds was converted into an attractive building. The older grades take the same full course of studies as schools elsewhere in British Columbia. The boys take manual training, while the girls are taught domestic science. High school students, here playing Canadian football, take a limited course of studies. These are the people of Tashme, very much like all the others of Canada's 23,000 people of Japanese racial origin. There are among them Japanese nationals, naturalized Canadians, and Canadian-born. Each of these 3 legal groups is further split and subdivided. Some in each group declared themselves at the start of the war as being loyal to Japan and wishing repatriation. Some in each group strive sincerely to be loyal Canadians. There are older men who had the opportunity to fight for Canada in the last war and who did so. There are others who had that same opportunity who did not do so. Like people all over the world, there are the good, the bad, and the indifferent. The problem they represent has been solved only temporarily by the war. The ultimate solution will depend on the measure of careful understanding by all Canadians.